Chris Matthews believes that a new Bernie Sanders ad is misleading voters. Let's see if he has a point.
Bernie Sanders is running a TV ad right now that basically accuses those he calls Washington politicians of taking $200,000 in speaking fees while opposing a hike in the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Well, the fact is, and Senator Sanders knows it's a fact, is that Washington politicians, members of Congress, U.S. senators, are not permitted to accept speaking fees to any amount. No member of Congress, no U.S. senator, let me repeat, is permitted to accept a dollar or a cent for giving a speech. That is the fact. Now listen to the Bernie Sanders ad.
While Washington politicians are paid over $200,000 an hour for speeches, they oppose raising the living wage to $15 an hour. $200,000 an hour for them, but not even $15 an hour for all Americans. Enough is enough.
It even shows the U.S. Capitol where congressmen and senators work. So if it's not true, if Washington politicians, the people to send to Washington, don't get money from corporations for giving speeches, not even a dollar, much less in the hundreds of thousands, which is what Hillary Clinton collected on a trio of occasions after leaving the State Department, why on God's earth did Senator Sanders paint all of Washington with that brush? I think what he's doing here is attacking all other politicians with the broad brush of corruption while crowning himself as the one honest person in national politics. Now, why would he do that? Why would he not just run against Hillary Clinton? Why run against everyone else who's been elected to serve in Washington? You're as good a judge of that as I am. What I know is what he's doing is saying something that is simply not true, and that enough should be reason to ditch this TV ad before it sells another citizen on something that is simply not a fact.
That right there is so symbolic of all that is wrong with Washington. So here's a guy who lives in Washington, Chris Matthews, loves Washington, loves the politicians that are on his show, loves that his wife is running as a politician. But I think the wife thing is really a very minor part of it, right? He's been part of the establishment for so long, and he is offended by Bernie Sanders. He is offended by the idea that we think Washington is corrupt. See, this is the bias against Bernie Sanders. Why would they be biased against him, you ask? The mainstream media, MSNBC, Chris Matthews? Because they are Washington. So when he says Washington is corrupt and all the rest of us agree, oh, that bothers them in their very core.
Yeah.
How dare you suggest that Washington politicians are corrupt? That was that whole segment. Now, so let me break it down for Chris, because apparently he has trouble understanding this. Okay.
I hear his audience is as good at breaking it down as he is.
Oh, yeah. Let's first make a super minor note that it is unfortunate that Donald Trump has brought an ill-fitting baseball cap back into fashion. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why that became acceptable to wear on television when they would have issues with me not wearing a tie.
Exactly.
But anyway.
Make caps great again.
Right. Okay, no, seriously. Now on to the real issues. Look, yes, Chris, technically, while they are politicians, they cannot take $200,000 per speech. But you know that Hillary Clinton and many other politicians take huge speaking fees right after they leave office.
Yeah.
So if you think that, and then oftentimes later, will then get back into office, whether serving in an administration as a Secretary of Treasury or as a senator, congressman, etc. Now, if you think that revolving door is not a problem, that for the Clintons, for example, to take $140 million in speeches, and then when they come back into office, oh, I would never be affected by some people giving me millions of dollars. $140 million. No, I'm superhuman. That would never affect me. How could you not understand that that's an outrageous position, a position that almost no real American would agree with you on?
Yeah.
And so that's half of the problem, and a very big problem. The other half is, wait, you neglected to mention the hundreds of thousands of dollars they take in campaign contributions. So while in office, they take hundreds of thousands of dollars from campaign contributions from very rich donors who want them to do their bidding, and then conveniently they do their bidding, right?
Yeah.
After they get out of office, they personally enrich themselves. And you want to blame Bernie Sanders for smearing Washington when you're bathed in the corruption.
Yeah.
So yes, Chris, yes, I hate to break it to you, Washington is deeply, grotesquely corrupt. And you don't even see. See, the thing is, Chris Matthews isn't a bad guy. People think I might, all this things segments we've done about him might think that I dislike him. No.
Yeah, it has nothing to
Chris
do with that.
genuinely is into politics and believes everything he believes with a great fervor.
Yeah.
Like, my issue with him isn't that he's evil. Like, he's not going home and going, we have done the corruption really well today, right?
Yeah.
No, my problem with him is that he really doesn't get it.
Yeah.
He thinks, well, all my friends are lovely people. Yeah, we all got rich doing this. I live in an incredibly expensive house, and so do all the guys I know.
Yeah.
But how dare you question our integrity? No, of course we take millions of dollars, and it never corrupts us. Well, the rest of the country disagrees, Chris. And it's not just because of the unbelievable support that Bernie Sanders has gotten, the support that you said wouldn't happen, but happened in an almost record-breaking way in terms of fundraising from small donors, in terms of the appearances on the speech, votes that you thought he was never going to get, states that you thought he was never going to win. Does that not make you think like, whoa, wait, maybe I missed something, right? And so, but also when you ask in polls, about 90% of the country says, yes, we think the money corrupts Washington politicians. So the guy who's always talking about, oh my God, now the American people say, right? No, the American people say Washington is corrupt. They completely and utterly disagree with you. Yeah. One more thing. I want to show you the results of this, and this is graphics 20 and 21, right? So this is where it gets really serious. So what is the result of that corruption? Because oftentimes they'll do this, and Hillary Clinton says, so show me one bill where I changed my vote. And Bernie Sanders is too decent to actually say it. It drives me crazy. Bankruptcy bill. You changed your vote on the bankruptcy bill. We know it. You weren't in the Senate before, but you actively lobbied against the bankruptcy bill during the Clinton administration. And then you voted for that same bill afterwards when you were a senator, after you took millions of dollars of campaign contributions to become a senator, let alone Glass-Steagall, TPP, all these other things. Okay. So what is the result of that corruption? Let me show you two of my favorite charts here, even though they're devastating. So this is what percentage of taxes were paid in 1952 and then in 2015. Look, there's a lot I can say about this. I just want you to focus real quick, though, on one important thing here. Corporations back in 1952 paid 32% of all taxes. Now they're down to about 11% of all taxes, okay? So that is what the corruption bought them. They shifted the tax burden from them onto us. Yeah. And most of that went into payroll tax. Working poor, middle class pay the payroll tax. That's a much bigger percentage of your income than it is for rich people. So they took trillions of dollars in tax burden, and they took it off of the rich and corporations and transferred it onto the middle class and the poor. And then the Chris Matthews of the world go, what? What corruption? I don't know what corruption you're talking about. I'm going to show you one other graph. Now this, you might think like, well, okay, this looks fairly normal. You know what this is? This is the blue line is American productivity. Congratulations, American workers. You did a fantastic job. Your productivity has continued to rise. The red line is your hourly wages, okay, your compensation. Now, for a while, it's going really well. In fact, you're getting compensated better than productivity. Great job. Obviously, the workers in this country are reaping the rewards of us being number one in the world, number one in economy, right? Ooh, in 1980, that line diverges, okay? And all of a sudden, your wages do not keep up with productivity. And that might seem like a small difference between that blue and red line there to you. The reality is that difference is also trillions of dollars. Yeah. Trillions of dollars that you should have gotten paid in your wages for the productivity you had. But they didn't give you those wages because they were able to rig the laws in Congress through the legalized bribery and corruption. So they took trillions of dollars from your salary that you should have had. That's the great American robbery that television news doesn't tell you about.
From Social Security as well, which you saw in that first
graph. That's right. And they took trillions of dollars in taxes and shifted it onto you. That's a lot of trillions of dollars that they screwed you for. Yeah. But on TV, they never tell you that. Instead, they yell at the people who are trying to point it out.